you be interested in getting soldering, wondering all those tiny of connections, flow in electronic circuits. In this video, we're gonna do the soldering on the safety way.
Before we proceed to the video steps, it's good to know the tools and materials needed for the soldering process. The first essential item we need is solder. Other items include the flux, tin, the soldering pump, cables, PCB board, and various components for materials. But there are some crucial points to consider to ensure the safety of others during the soldering process. That is a safety checklist. First thing first, make sure to keep away from animals such as cats and others because solder fumes can be hazardous, causing asthma, respiration, throat irritation, and even pneumonia. For humans, you can use a mask or, if available, 12-volt mini fan. Place it in front of the project you are soldering so that the fumes are drawn away during the soldering process. Make sure to perform soldering in a well-ventilated area to allow the fumes to dissipate. Don't forget to wash your hands once the soldering process is complete. Avoid proximity to flammable items or chemical during the solder process. The first things we will solder is connecting the wires to the PCB board. The second thing is soldering. It is recommended to use a high voltage solder, preferably between 40 to 100 watts, to easily the melting of tin. The most important things of soldering is a soldering tip. There are various types of soldering tip, but in this video we will be using a conical tip, which is a sharper. The third thing is the size of the tin. We often use a thickness of 0.8 millimeter for soldering because it is thin and easily melt, especially when using a 40-watt soldering iron, which is not too hot. The fourth thing is using flux to make the tin melt more easily and adhere to the part we want to solder. Apply flux to the areas we want to solder, such as wires, PCB board, or component pins. The fifth is to touch the tin to the soldering iron tip to add tin to the tip. However, be careful not to add too much tin so it doesn't stick prematurely to the component pins or wires. The sixth is to touch the soldering iron tip to the area you want to solder. For example, if you are soldering or connecting a wire to a component pin with solder, touch the soldering iron tip and the wire to add solder to the wire. If there is excess tin, lift the soldering iron tip first and then lift the tin from the solder area. But there's an important point when soldering with tin. When you want to add tin to the wire or component pin, the wire or component pin must be both sufficiently heated along with the soldering tip so that the tin easily melts. You will see the tin spreading evenly into the wire and component pin. I'll show you that's a common experience many people face while soldering. If you lift the tin and soldering iron simultaneously to cold, you might notice the tin doesn't spread evenly, resulting in a poor adhesion between the component pin or wire and the tin. Now, sometimes we may unintentionally breach the tool like this. What should we do? Introduce a desoldering pump to clean the tin we want to remove in the area where we soldered earlier. Touch the soldering iron tip to the tin until it melts. When the tin is visibly melted, bring this desoldering pump nozzle close to the tin and press the pump button to suck the tin. And boom, there you go. The tin is now clean from the area where you will soldered earlier. Alright folks, for today's video, we're diving into the soldering techniques, a skill that can have a significant impact and is often used in large-scale electronic companies for Mayor project. It's also a common hobby. Happy soldering. I'm Syahrul. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. Catch you later, fam.